After using their first-round pick on Alabama's Jahad Campbell, the Eagles have 2 picks on day 2, number 64 in the second round, number 96 in the third round. And we're here with ALLCITY's NFL draft expert, Fran Duffy, to talk about who they might be focused on in round 2. And Fran, I believe that the Eagles are going to be potentially aggressive in moving up in round 2. And there are a lot of players who could fit the type of player that they want to add to this team. Let's talk about tight end first, and there are 2 guys who make sense here. Mason Taylor from LSU, who got a lot of first-round buzz and could be going early in the round, and then Elijah Arroyo from Miami, a little bit more explosive, a player that you like a lot. Both of them seem like potential fits for the Eagles.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to the conversation of, floor versus ceiling and safe versus risky. I think when you're looking at Arroyo, only 1 year of real production over the course of his time in Miami, only had 11 catches entering the 2024 season, then became one of the most explosive threats at the position in the entire college football landscape. And when you're looking at his game, it's really about being that mismatch type, move him around the formation. He's got the ability to route up safeties. He's too athletic for linebackers, too big for defensive backs. He can create after the catch with the ball in his hands, and he also can be a proven vertical threat down the seam, down the field, lining up for multiple alignments. So I like what I've seen from Elijah Arroyo. And then when you're looking at Mason Taylor, he's not quite as dynamic as Arroyo, but I would say, is a little bit more consistent at the catch point, a little bit more refined as a route runner, and then as a blocker was asked to do more traditional things as well. Both of them, honestly, I might give Arroyo the edge as a blocker.
Interesting.
But I think that when you're looking at, like hand in the dirt, he's done a little bit more. He's also got 3 years of starting experience, has never really missed any time, whereas Arroyo has a history of knee injuries. So there's, again, you started getting into the different complicating factors when it comes to Arroyo's projection.
If you're new to Mason Taylor, he's the son of the Hall of Famer Jason Taylor.
Yep.
To me, the difference between these guys is almost, if you want a tight end, you get Mason Taylor. If you want a dynamic threat to add to the offense, you go for Elijah Arroyo.
I think that's fair. I think both guys are probably better pass catchers than blockers. Both, honestly, I think Arroyo's a better blocker. I think he checks the box there, whereas I think with Taylor, it's a little bit more of a work in progress. But yeah, I think with both, you're going to work around them a little bit in the run game early on.
Now, the offensive line in the second round, it sort of thins out a little bit, given the guys who went in the first round. There aren't a ton of guys who I think the Eagles will love in the second round. They've brought in a few players who are sort of third-round guys for visits, Charles Grant, Anthony Belton. But in terms of second-round guys, you've got Arizona's Jonah Savaiinaea, but I think Minnesota's Aireontae Ersery is probably the one guy I could see them potentially being really interested in.
Yeah, I penciled him as a potential Eagles fit early on in the process. You talk about size. He's 6'6". He's north of 200 or 320 pounds. He's got unique athleticism for a guy that big, real explosive traits, was late to football in high school. So still a little bit green, a little bit unrefined. Played a lot of ball at Minnesota, and so he got plenty of experience under his belt playing in the Big Ten. But you can see that he can get a little bit grabby at times in pass protection. He's a better run blocker right now than pass protector. The change of direction stuff, he can get a little bit clunky. But when I look at his height, weight, speed, the physical traits there, I think that's something that Jeff Stoutland has proven that he can work with. He's only really played tackle with Minnesota, but I think he's got the body type to be able to play guard. The game does move a little bit faster when you slide in closer to the ball, so you worry about that a little bit. But again, for a day 2 pick, I think that's a fine dart to try and throw with Aireontae Ersery and try and project him as a future starter in this scheme.
You think he could step in week 1, be the starting right guard?
I think he could compete. It would be a new position for him.
Yeah.
So my guess is I would probably give Tyler Steen and Kenyon Green the leg up there going into that competition, but he certainly could compete for it.
Now, I think that the deepest group in the second round here is the edge guys.
I agree.
And it's complicated by the fact that the Eagles are saying that Jahad Campbell might be an edge for them, so they may not need one here. But I'm going to throw 6 names at you. You pick 2 who you think make the most sense for the Eagles. So you've got Marshall's Mike Green, UCLA's Oluwafemi Oladejo, who the Eagles brought in for a pre-draft visit, Ohio State's JT Tuimoloau, Boston College's Donovan Ezaraku, who they brought in for a pre-draft visit, Texas A&M's Nick Scorton, who they brought in for a pre-draft visit, and Arkansas's Landon Jackson, who you like a lot. Who of those 6, give me 2 who you think make the most sense for the Eagles?
Yeah, it's tough because a number of those guys I felt had a good chance to go on Thursday night in round 1 of this draft. And so when I'm looking at that group, Who's got the best chance at falling? I think they could go in a variety of orders here, but I would look at Tuimoloau from Ohio State. This is a 3-year starter, former #1 recruit, 5-star kid coming out of high school, and he's got the ability to win as a power rusher off the edge. Push the pocket. He can win with play strength. He can win with technique. I thought he really took a step this past season in terms of his overall pass rush plan, reached double-digit sacks for the first time in his career, and obviously was a big part of that national champion Buckeye team. And then I think you're going to look at Nick Scorton. This is a player that I thought had a chance to go late in round 1, led the Big Ten in sacks in 2023 as a 19-year-old, put on 15, 20 pounds, transferred to Texas A&M this past season. The production dipped a little bit, didn't look quite as dynamic off the ball when he added that weight, but cut the weight back. And now I think you're looking at a guy who's 265 pounds, has that ability to kind of replenish and get back to what he was as a true sophomore in the Big Ten at Purdue. To me, I think the arrow is still pointing up. He doesn't turn 21 until later this summer. So when you're looking at Nick Scorton and JT Tuimoloau, 2 guys that have had a lot of production over the course of their careers.
At defensive tackle, Milton Williams is gone. This position group has thinned out a little bit, but 2 players with sort of second-round grades that you like a little bit, who the Eagles have both brought in for pre-draft visits. TJ Sanders from South Carolina, Shamar Turner from Texas A&M. Who do you like better of those 2 guys? Let's talk about both of them.
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of the same profile with both.
Interesting.
I think where you're looking more of them as the traditional 3-technique tackle, the guy that's going to win upfield, first step quickness, play 100 miles an hour. Yeah, I really like what I've seen from both on film. I think I liked Milton Williams a little bit more coming out because I thought
loved Milton Williams.
I loved Milton Williams. Milton Williams was, I think, a top 30 player, top 35 player for me when he came out a few years ago. I thought Milton showed a little bit more in the run game than what these guys bring. That said, I think that they both have that disruptive ability against the pass, and they play really hard. So I think that you can coach some things into them when it comes to the run game, and there are certainly tools to work with. I think when you're looking at Shamar Turner, he dealt with an injury this past year. He had reportedly had a rod inserted into his foot back in August.
Ow.
So, it was not ideal, but he played through it and just has been dealing with it throughout the course of the pre-draft process. So he missed the Senior Bowl, didn't work out at the Combine for that reason. And when you're looking at TJ Sanders, he's a guy that was getting some first-round buzz coming out of the season. It was a really good South Carolina defensive line. Again, both guys, more of your traditional 3-technique, gap shooting types at the position.
All right, last one to ask you about is the secondary, where the Eagles are pretty loaded, but they don't have a safety who's necessarily penned in to start alongside Reed Blankenship. Might be Sidney Brown, but they could add some competition there. And there are some good cornerbacks still available. I'm going to throw 4 secondary names at you. You pick one to tell me why you think the Eagles might be interested. Let's go Trey Amos, the Ole Miss corner, who the Eagles brought in for a pre-draft visit. Nick Eamon-Worry, the South Carolina safety, who lots of people thought might go in the first round. Jonas Sanker, the safety from Virginia. Xavier Watts, the safety from Notre Dame.
Yeah, I want to first talk about Jonas Sanker. This is a player that I am certainly higher on, I think, than most in the media. I see a really good starter moving forward into the NFL. Maybe not a true Pro Bowl player, but I think a guy that's got that ability to just check every box and be a very reliable player on the back end of a defense. He can run the alley as a top-down player, meaning that he can play from depth and approach the line of scrimmage, take good angles, and finish one-on-one as a tackler. He can finish on the ball in the air. I think his zone instincts are very good. I think he's got the ability to match up in the slot as well against tight ends at times if you need him to. But to me, when I look at Sanker, again, you're just checking all the boxes. Reportedly a very good kid off the field as well. And I think to me, Trey Amos probably has the best chance in terms of getting into striking distance.
Okay.
But look, Nick Eamon-Worry is an outstanding player, one of my favorite players in this class. I thought he had Pro Bowl potential at South Carolina. I'm surprised he's still on the board. I can't imagine he gets into striking distance for the Eagles. Amos is a fifth-year senior. Began his career at Louisiana, and I remember being at the Combine a few years ago, and some of his former Louisiana teammates saying, yeah, like, this kid Amos is going to be an NFL player down the road. He gets it. He's a professional. He showed up and was a great worker right away, great practice habits, and became a really good player at Louisiana. Enters the transfer portal, goes to Alabama, gets stuck as a backup behind Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold, who are both the top 50 picks in the 2024 NFL draft, 2 guys that went high. Nick Saban leaves. He goes back into the portal, goes to Ole Miss, and has his best season. So when you're looking at Trey Amos, he started off as a starter, became a backup at Alabama, became a big-time SEC player as a fifth-year player for the Ole Miss Rebels. I love his zone instincts. He's competitive. I was worried about what he was going to run at the combine. He ends up running low 4.4, so he checked the box there. Outside of the speed, I didn't really have any questions on tape, so I liked the player on film a lot with Trey Amos.
All right, well, after adding Jahad Campbell, do the Eagles double down on defense to add to the best defense in football, or do they bounce back to the offense? We will find out on Friday night, and we will be live throughout the draft starting at 6:30 p.m. until the end of the third round with Fran Duffy and Zach Berman. I'm Bo Wulf. Check it all out on Friday night.